It's better than without it.
And discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we're back. My name is Keith. I'm from Christian Warrior Training. I got my friend, what's your name? It's been so long. Mike. And Dave. I'm so sorry. And we got more people over there. So apparently I was supposed to open this up. Hey, but today we actually got a serious topic. Al-Qaeda and ISIS, if you don't know, they have joined teams because they want to destroy us. And so they have been opposites before. They're now talking to each other. And we had an incident in Southern California. I'm gonna withhold some information because Joint Terrorism Task Force is still looking into this. But 3 Afghanis came to a church, and when they came in, good job on the security team. They watched them as they were taking video. 2 were taking video and pictures of the campus, a very large church, a mega church, and the other was asking questions. And so you're asking yourself, what questions were they asking? They were asking, do you have a live feed of your service? We want to feel safe. Do you have a security team? And some why are these guys? Now they were dressed very nice, right? They were dressed in business attire, not suits, but like a Christian would dress going to church, right? Not to drag attention. Security team was on it. They did a great job. Irvine PD. Oh, I gave away the city. Dang it. That's all right. Irvine PD did a wonderful job. I'm not going to say the church.
We can't take you anywhere.
Oh my God. I shouldn't have said that. That was horrible.
People are already Googling churches.
Right. Now you're looking at what mega church it would be down there. That's all right.
Yeah.
So Irvine PD did a wonderful job and contacted the man, and Joint Terrorism Task Force was called. But ultimately, because we live in America, we have the Constitution. And one of the things I've talked about is you have to have a law that was violated to make an arrest. It's not illegal to take pictures and what have you. So these guys did a wonderful job. They took all the photos they needed. They identified them using name and date of birth. The church security team. So you're right. Good on them, because usually civilians don't think about doing these things. And when the guys got let go, they went and did their open source intelligence. So one of the things I've been saying to Christian Warriors, you need an intelligence officer on your team, right? Somebody to look at the intelligence and decide what's important, what's not. All they did was look at Facebook first, and the guy's Facebook profile for the bad man is a picture of him in Taliban attire, where next to another Taliban guy. He's got an AK-47. It's obviously Afghanistan. They were able to geolocate the picture to a specific part of Afghanistan that has certain activities.
Great counterintelligence, guys. Great counterintelligence.
All right, so for the
way to cover your tracks.
All right, so for the church security team, can we all just say good job? You're doing
Absolutely.
a better job than our government at this point, right?
Way better.
And so they track it all down, and and good on them. They put out the alert to all, because they got organized. They are all on a signal group. All the churches in that area are in a signal group. They put that in from signal. For you guys that don't know, you should know if you're watching this show, but it's encrypted messaging, and they get on it. They let everybody know, and they let me know at Christian Warrior. So I released that information on my newsletter, which is about 40,000 people strong right now. And I immediately got a call from a church in Fairfax, Virginia. And in Fairfax, Virginia, they're like, we just got this email from a police officer. Can you take a look at it? And I read the email, and it's a beat cop. And this cop, if you're watching, because I know you're a Christian, if you're watching, God bless you. You did a wonderful job. He saw a report coming from another district. Right here, copy. Oh, sorry, we dropped the microphone. All right. So you know what I'm talking about, where he saw a report in another district where 3 Middle Eastern males, nicely dressed, came in. 2 were taking pictures, while 1 went and asked, do you live stream? Do you have a security team? Right? Same MO, right? And so the cop was warning all of the churches in his district. Good job for that cop, because we know that some cops aren't that gung-ho about it. I released that information on the newsletter the next day, put that out. And then the church that was targeted in Fairfax sent me a message saying that was our church. The police said it was no big deal. The minimizers, the guys that are like, oh, it's okay, we have everything under control. And this cop saw through the BS, wrote an email to all of his people saying, be wary, right? So a cop in Alabama calls, good old Alabama, right?
Roll Tide.
Yeah, baby. So a cop in Alabama calls, hey, I'm a security director, and I was captain of major crimes. We had the same thing, same MO, same everything. All right, so this all happened in 1 week. So this is pre-attack intelligence being gathered by, there's one more in Texas. I know everybody's gonna ask me, please tell me the church. I'm not gonna tell you the church because whenever somebody Googles the name of that church, because they want to attend, because they want to come to Christ or whatever, they're gonna run it. The problem is, that's gonna be the first thing that comes up. And nobody's gonna go to that church anymore. Okay, so we're not gonna, and it's not important. It doesn't matter. You can say, well, I'm in Fairfax, I'm in Irvine. It doesn't matter. If you're in those areas, then get ready because the Taliban is obviously, but the Al-Qaeda ISIS is already looking to attack a church in your area. So yeah, you should be concerned. What you really need to be concerned about, we have four incidents that we can tie to and say yes.
Ones that we know of.
Ones that we know of. Multiply that by a minimum of 10. Okay, that'd be 40. So you can anticipate there were probably 40 churches probed, but only 4 came out. So that means 36 churches have it. If this is your church, if you're watching, and you did nothing, and you let, I'll give you an example. I was talking to somebody here at the show where SHOT Show. Somebody stopped me and they're like, I watch your channel. Hey, my church, they could be filming out front, and my church will do nothing about it, which is horrifying, right? And so think about all those churches that do nothing. You're going to get attacked. You were probed. They looked and they saw you're an easy mark, and they're going to come back and they're going to shoot your church up, right? Not to hog all the airtime, but that's the basis of what we're looking at. So all of you are very smart because you're watching Chris Heaven's show, and if you're watching his show, you're smart, man. Well, it's not just your show, so sorry.
Yeah,
Righteous brothers.
Yeah, well, let me bring up a little thing to throw in the middle of this. So over the last few, here we go.
Whatever we can talk about, we just no, man, you handed me $100. I'm not joking.
Come on, Chris. You know if you're going to hand a cop money, it's supposed to be in an envelope.
You won't get to take it out of here.
No, my $100 bill.
Go ahead, buddy.
Set up for sure. Are you a Fed? So there's this thing that's been going on in the law enforcement world for the last decade or so, and it's this thing called First Amendment auditors.
Yes.
And what they do is almost exactly what this ISIS Al-Qaeda thing is doing, with logos stand around in front of a police department or a government building and video record, and they're trying to bait the cops to coming out and to arrest them falsely. But what is creating, the response is creating is we can't do anything to anybody that's out doing surveillance or video recording because it's their right, and we just have to sit back and take it and let people go through our cars and film things and get information on what we're doing. There's just nothing we can do, or we're going to face, a civil lawsuit or who knows whatever. And I'm wondering if that is affecting law enforcement response. Like, are they going to show up to these calls and think, well, there's nothing we can do if somebody's just asking about your public church service or your, what your hours of operation are or how you do things. My fear is that law enforcement might be a little standoffish with how they should pursue this. And the way you just overcome that is common sense. Like, have somebody take a minute, just put all this information together, the totality of the circumstances, and really give this a moment to figure out what's going on. And it's not going to take very long to realize that it's not some goofballs with a First Amendment audit channel that are trying to get you. Because first of all, the target isn't law enforcement. It's not the FBI. It's not local police. It's a private organization. So that's 90% of everything you need to know. But I still feel like there's civilians out there. I mean, we see people walk out of Walmart with 12 grocery carts full of stuff and nobody does anything. There's just a real just tendency for people these days to not want to get involved. And that might even translate to somebody on a church security team. Maybe they've never been in the security world before. Thankfully, I think a lot of security team folks are prior law enforcement or military or have some of that background, but there's always a chance that you just get, just a normal dude that likes to shoot, that wants to be part of your team, that might not have that critical thinking, that investigative style thinking or not. So it's important for everybody to realize, when these situations arise, just critically start thinking and evaluating the information, what's going on. And for me in law enforcement, always in the back of my mind, on every stop, every contact, I did not want to be that guy that got tricked. I did not want to be that guy that got fooled. Like, well, there went 100 kilos of cocaine in that car because I, didn't ask a question. And so I wanted to critically evaluate my contact and my conversations, and is there something else going on here? And just analyze what's happening else. So I think you can overcome some of the fear of, or the standoff style attitude of a lot of people just by, let's just one thing at a time. Let's evaluate what's going on here, and then sharing the information.
Yep.
If you're not sure, to ask somebody else or
people know.
Check on it. That's huge.
Well, and to that point, you also have to look at, a lot of people are also scared to step up and actually do anything, especially after what happened with Penny in New York.
Yep.
That really put a damper on a lot of people being willing or not willing to step up. It's a thing.
Yep. Right. Everybody says they're willing, hey, if a guy pulls out an AK in the church parking lot, I'm going to be there. Well, awesome. That's an easy decision. But when things are just slowly developing in the beginning, those are the moments in time when we got to start taking some action, and people just they really want to wait, and the time for that is quickly going to be over.
Yeah. So the next question that I'm going to get. Oh, go ahead, buddy.
Well, no, I wanted to ask you to provide a distinction of where the First Amendment applies versus where it doesn't, based on public access, because that's an important aspect of this.
So the big question is, all right, where does First Amendment access begin? So people are doing First Amendment audits of churches now, and they're doing it because some churches have big money, and they're staying on the sidewalk and talking about how abortion is great, and all these things, debate and argument from the staff. And the staff has been falling for it, and so it's been beneficial for their channels to make more.
And then they try to get them, to
right?
leave.
So,
they don't want to leave.
So I wrote an article about this on First Amendment audits of churches and how you're going to handle it, right? If they're on a public sidewalk, it's a public sidewalk. They can do whatever they want, right? Don't engage, don't talk to them. But if it's 3 Middle Eastern males with 2 taking pictures and 1 asking questions, there was one church. They're like, but how do we know that these 3 guys weren't doing a First Amendment audit? Okay, hold up. How many times have you ever been asked, do you live stream? Do you have a security team?
And the nature of the question
That's a red flag, right? If they're on the sidewalk, you can call the police, and we're going to show up, and we're just going to make sure we keep the peace. Don't beat them up. You can't beat them up. Well, somebody comes up and yells at them, we'll be like, hey man, just step back and let them do their thing. And they'll come up and try and video us, and we're like, whatever, man, let me know when you're done being a clown, and we'll move on, right? And I'll say just enough to know I'm not going to get in trouble, but to let them know, screw you, right, and move on. So the minute they step on your property, yes, the church is public property because we want people to come to Christ, we want people to worship, right? So come on to the church, right? But we also have the right to eject people and trespass them, right? And tell them, and stay tuned for Christian Warrior, because I am releasing a story that happened in North Idaho where they try to eject somebody. There was a bit of a scuffle, and the county prosecutor issued a summons for battery on the church security team member, and it is horrible. It is a total injustice. There is a certain self-defense insurance company that he called for help, and they told him, no, we're not going to cover you. You can figure out who that is because, I'm a shot judge, so I got to be careful, but they're the same company everybody complains about. And I've called the police. The police saw my channel. They're like, yeah, we'd like to help you. They're stonewalling me. I did a FOIA. They rejected my FOIA for a police report. I know, right?
It's in the middle of the investigation, Keith. We can't release that.
Oh no, the guy's going through court, man. And they're saying, no, you can't have it. Whatever, man. And so my point being is look, there was this injustice done, but if you're on church property, we can tell you to leave. And a lot of Christians have a hard time with that, right? But look, man, there are times that people people come onto the property and they're being disruptive and they're causing problems, just know that when they've disrupted your church service, it's time to go, right? And you got 3 Middle Eastern men asking those questions and taking pictures. Come on, man. Like, we know what's going to happen.
And at some point, they're not just going to stay on the side either. They're going to come in and attend the church service.
Yes. So let's talk about the attack, right? There's 2 things to talk about. When's the attack going to happen? And then what's that attack going to look like, right? So when's the attack going to happen? I don't know. It's going to be on a date that's important for them, that they deem important.
Mhm.
Easter.
They're all about that.
Yeah. Easter, Christmas Eve. Like, what's it going to be, right? We don't know what it's going to be, but just anticipate that when there's an important date for your church coming up, where's the attack going to happen? All over the country, apparently, because they hit coast to coast, north to south, right? So we know it's going to be everywhere. Al-Qaeda has told us. Al-Qaeda told us a long time ago they were going to attack us. They didn't get the World Trade Center the first time, so they got it the second time, right? And so they're going to want this. And so when you look at Al-Qaeda, they told us that they anticipate the next attack is going to be October 7th style, and they want 60,000 casualties out of it. They told us that. That's huge. Do you think some of those are going to come out of a church? Of course, because ISIS has come out and said attack churches and synagogues. I just got done talking to the tactical rabbi today, and we just all appreciate the tactical rabbi's YouTube name. That's phenomenal. I haven't looked at the tactical rabbi on YouTube yet. All I know is we need to collaborate because that's the best
I
name
think
ever.
we need to collaborate with this guy.
So
Kevlar Yarmulke right now.
Kevlar yarmulke.
So we were talking about other attacks in synagogues and churches and it's coming. So we know that there's going to be an October 7th style attack. They're going to be all over the country. And we also got a report that just came out. Sarah Adams put this out. Other people have put it out about these, and this is where you come in, baby. Are you ready? I'm going to talk slow as I talk about this.
You should.
You ready? They're going to have bomb vests that are invisible.
Oh my.
All right. So we know that there's a new type of suicide vest that they're looking at. It's made. Tell me about the suicide vest.
Yeah, they make these available.
Okay, so the intelligence on that invisible suicide vest. So there's two different sides to this. So first, detectability through an electronic means, right? So X-ray. So if you, well, no, not necessarily X-ray, but through magnetometer. So it is a all non-metallic vest. Okay. So you're not going to pick it up through a magnetometer or anything like that, which is fine. They were doing IEDs like that in Afghanistan all the time, using a lot of carbon fiber for power transmission, things like that. From what we were hearing, they were talking about some kind of chemical reaction detonator. It's possible. We've done it in the past. Okay, it can be done. And okay, so you can't see it in an X-ray. Body scanner, you can 100% see the bloody thing. Okay. And then there's the point of view of, they were saying, well, we coated all the explosives in silicone so the dog can't smell it. Well, I'm here to tell you,
the dog can smell it.
the dog can smell it.
And we know that from drug trafficking. Dogs are a lot better than they think.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I beat the dog once.
Against the dog, probably the handler was not paying attention to the
No.
dog.
There was a whole line of dogs, and I was trying to beat the dog, and I beat the whole line of dogs. Did it once,
Good job, brother.
and I am never going to tell anybody outside my community how I did that. But man, it was
Did you
tough.
do it with the felony forest? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Or maybe coffee grounds.
It was no, it was tough, but we did it. And silicone was nowhere in the mix. Silicone will still allow, they will still allow nitrate vapors through. Okay, and if nitrate vapors can get through there, then you're going to be able to, any of the homemade explosives, those vapors are going to come through there. So it's going to happen. It still permeates.
Okay.
It's tough, but it does permeate.
So let's come back for a minute. Churches don't have magnetometers.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Was hey, no church is going to pay
No.
$40,000 for a dog
Absolutely.
to do that.
And
Yeah.
here's the thing: we don't want you to turn your church into a bunker.
No.
Your church has to remain open. You have to work harder. a lot harder. So, but we know that suicide vests, because Al Qaeda, ISIS are talking about bringing suicide vests to America. We really haven't experienced it too much in America. There was one New York City subway, some guy to try to do it, but you can go on YouTube and look at it. It's phenomenal footage. But he failed. He just didn't do it right.
It's beautiful.
I think what we do know about ISIS and Al Qaeda is that explosives is like, it's like their favorite thing.
Oh, they have
Yeah.
they have extensive experience with it. Thanks, KGB. We're glad you gave all that stuff to them back in the 60s.
So we know that when the churches are attacked, more than likely it's going to be a complex attack, multiple attackers, multiple directions with a suicide bomb. Okay. And I know like it's hard for people to conceptualize, right? Because you're in America. Christians have not really been persecuted in America. And I know the Christians are like, oh, but you know, like the transgender community yells at us or whatever, right? Bro, you have not experienced, you know, what, like go to Nigeria right now where they're on average killing 40 Christians a day.
Yeah. Where
They're going into a church and beheading everybody. Okay? We in America, I think we're going to hit with October 7th style attack. I think it's going to hit us hard, complex. We don't know when it's going to happen. So what do you do to prepare your church for a coming attack? Which you're more likely to have a pastor abuse a child than you are to have an active shooter at your church, statistically. Because if you look at the newsletter I put out every week, I list all, and it's always like 4 sexual assaults committed by staff members of the church upon a child. And then no active shooters. And then I anticipate that we'll probably have 3 or 4 active shooter events at churches over this year, unless Al Qaeda, you know, works something out, right? But that's kind of what we anticipate. It's like that every year, kind of goes up and down. But
I do want to say one more thing about this. So Al Qaeda has a strong history of also hanging out that shiny thing, right?
Yes.
They'll hang out they will hang out intelligence, and everybody will hyperfixate on that bit of intelligence while they walk in with something that they've always used.
yes,
Because everybody's looking for this new hotness, and they walk in with the old busted that works just fine. So having somebody walk into the church carrying a gym bag full of hand grenades, it still works. Okay.
Yep.
Nobody's running a magnetometer. They can still come in with this stuff.
so good point about handbag, you know, a tote bag full of grenades. People have to remember that cartels are in bed with China, and they talk to Hamas and they talk to Hezbollah. We know that. We know that they have talked to ISIS and Al Qaeda in the past, right? And we know this, and some of it's open source, some of it I just don't care anymore. Everybody should know. And we know that that's a problem. People think that guns and ammo only flow one direction on the border. People don't realize things also come up here, mainly like grenades, M72 law, you know, all these other things that come back across the board because apparently, anyway, well, hopefully that changes, right? It's a new America. Everybody feel a little more freedom
I
now.
kind of think the damage is done.
It is.
There's already stuff here.
Look at the odds when it comes just to drug running with the cartels. They'll load up 10 semis with you know,
Yes.
a couple thousand
Yeah.
kilos, and they'll send them all, and 9 of them will get caught at the border. At least one comes through because we find them in Chicago. We find them in St. Louis. We find them. Where'd you come from? Tijuana, whatever. Like in this? Yeah, I just drove it here.
Yeah.
So if you can bring that into this country from Mexico, why could you not bring, you know, 100 AKs or just small?
Well, what
arms?
about the man pads? We know that those
Yeah.
Right? Those missile freeze.
You know, and like I'm not panicking. I still go. I'm going to make a church that would be a big target. We're one of the biggest churches in Idaho, and I know that we're a target. And plus, I got my YouTube channel. I don't hide what church I go to, really. You know, and I mean, you probably figure it out, man. Come attack us because like our church security team now has like 4 SEALs, tons of SWAT, tons of gang guys. It's like, baby, I cannot, like, if we all joke because like we sit there in our group, we have 80 security personnel across the campuses, and we joke about like, man, could you imagine like if somebody actually attacked our church? There are some guys with some serious bodies on them, like, you know, like if done some damage, and you know, somebody's gonna be like, woo!
I got 3 guys with pistols and Tech 9s. Oh, this is not what I signed up for.
You know, and it's funny, like, because I brought up to the church, I'm like, hey, you know, are you worried about this? And the church people, they all laugh. They're like, it ain't gonna happen. Like, I mean, it ain't gonna happen because, like, the minute something happens, I mean, there's people in the parking lot. The minute you drive in, it'll be like we have some guys with serious experience. It'll be some SEAL team go, I know what you're doing. I've been here before. And then there's gonna be some SWAT team guy that's been like, in like 10 shootings, you know, like down in LA, you know.
Yeah, so Keith, for people watching, just can you give us just a general basic outline of how you think security? It's not just, you can't just have everybody in the pews, you know, with their guns on them during the church service, and that's your security. It's not how it works. There's different layers and different levels and rings of security. Can you just kind of give us a basic view of what that looks like? Not that we're going to all the details, setting up a brand new team here, but how does that look for a typical church?
So your church security is going to be like an onion. Peel that thing open, multiple layers. First layer is parking lot. Everything starts in the parking lot, right? Meaning, if they're going to attack you, they have to go through the parking lot. Right? They have to go drive, right? And that's going to be the parking lot, or on the backside perimeter or something like that, right? And so,
and if you think like, well, I don't want to be parking lot security, or I don't want to be on the parking lot team, that's, I don't know what the most important part is, but that might be, I might argue that you're going to see the three guys in the white minivan, like from back.
Oh yeah,
rolling up in the parking lot. That's going to be your job to see that first.
Brother, I want the parking lot because that's where it's going to start. Why would I want to be inside? I'm in Idaho, standing out in the snow, going like, "Come on, baby, let today be the day." Right? Why would like a lot of your security guys going like, "Well, I'm going to wear plain clothes so that way, you know, they don't attack me first." What? I want them to attack me first. Like, bring it, man. That's your job. Yeah, I'm totally down with that. Man. You're in a place, right? So, what I like to tell people is like, you're on a perimeter, right? You're supposed to watch like, let's say door, you know, like the main door for the church. Have that guy stand outside. He's watching the parking lot and he's watching the door. And then you have your next inside security, and then you have some people inside the sanctuary. And the guys inside your sanctuary could be guys that are there to worship. You know, and so like when I'm worshiping, I look and I'm up top and we all coordinate, right, where we're going to sit. There's nobody. In fact, when we do our active shooter training, we all sit where we're going to sit. And the active shooter can only get 5 seconds into the attack before somebody's on. And here's the other thing: you have to see what carriage, right? So depending on where you're at, right? Sorry, man, you got none. You're in Illinois. All right, so where I'm at in Idaho, we calculate that 40% of our church is on at any given time. Okay.
Wow.
And so what we do is the men's group is the natural, place to go for church security team stuff, right? And I'm not gonna lie, you go to the women's group where they bring, we have childcare, so the moms can all, do their Bible study. We go in there, we get people in there too. And so we just come out and go like, so the men's group, we're like, if you conceal carry, this is what we want you to do. We want you to only worry about your family. Unless active shooter's right here, then please due diligence, take care of that guy. But if he's across the church, why are you running across the church? You're not going to get there in time. Worry about your family, right? And then we don't want some guy running through with his handgun out because somebody's going to shoot you, right? And so, you got to get together with your CCW guys. And the best part is it's force multiplier, right? And then, so you have those different layers in there. The other thing is training. A lot of teams, they think, I just go to the range. But there's no structure to the range. It's like, I watched a YouTube channel, and they had this drill, and then you go do the drill, right? You can't do that. You've got to have professional instruction. And, like for my team, it was natural. We put a call in the men's group. Hey, if you're a warrior, we need you. And all of a sudden we have these guys show up and they're like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, I was in the Navy. And you look at them, it's like, what'd you do in the Navy?
Well, at least you weren't in the Air Force.
We have guys up and it's like, hey man, what do you do? Like, oh, I was on SWAT in LA. Or we just have guys show up like, hey man, I'm just a CCW guy, but I've been to Shaw shooting, gun sight, and they've been through it. It's like, okay,
You just stand over there.
you're pretty, and honestly, one of the best performing people on my church security team, I talk about her all the time, Peggy. Peggy's a grandma. And Peggy has one of the, besides, take the operators out of it, right? The SWAT guys, the soft guys, take them all out of it. Peggy's one of the best people because she pays attention, she trains, and we watch her. She got a level head in everything she does. And I love talking about her because look at, she's the one that's going to handle business.
I'm scared of Peggy right now.
Dude, it's hilarious, man. And the best part about Peggy is when I go to the range, I'm like, hey, I need you to do this different. It's done. Yeah. Versus the retired cop I need to do this different. This is the way I've been doing it. So I'm like, all right, dude, whatever. You know, like,
Yeah.
or even like a CCW, like a man, you know, like, and I've got a CCW, oh, I don't need to do that. You know, like whatever, like they just don't want to learn.
Right. It really just starts with the mindset. It's like, you know, you want to ask people, are you willing to stop this attacker with a ballpoint pen if necessary? If the answer is
Well, yeah.
yes, then great. I
Well-
need you because you're willing to do whatever it takes to protect all of these people, to help them do something that they can't do for themselves. And if you have that attitude, it doesn't matter if you have a fork, you know, a ballpoint pen, whatever, we need you in that type of position.
So I wrote an article about like, what do you do about somebody that's like underperforming on the team, right? Anyway, I had a conversation with a guy. He's like, I just feel like it's a chore to be here. And I started thinking about it, right? If my church asked me to be on the worship team, if that's where you need me, well, I'm gonna be terrified. I can't sing. I don't want to play an instrument. You put me up there, well, that's where you want me to go. I'll like, like I'll sing and like, you know, it'll be horrible, right? And I started thinking about it. I'm like, dude, I think you need to be on the worship team, you know? And like for me, like, you know, like I ask people like, so we oral interview everybody, and you know, like top style, right? And it's just like, why do you want to be on the team? I need to protect the flock, man. I've been training for this my whole life. And I'm like, well, you know, are you willing to do this? Oh yeah, I'm willing to take it. Actually, it's going to make me a better person. You know, and it's like, oh, that guy's hungry for it. That's what you want, right? But not to get too far off the mark, we got to get ready for these attacks. They're going to happen. You got to start training. You got to have that organization, right? You got to have that team structure, and you got to have hierarchy, right? You got to have a leader. So you have to have a minister that's in charge of all the admin. But then you come down, you got to have a team leader who's in charge of all the people at the church, right? And then you have, you know, all these different people in different places. You got to have a training manager, a guy in charge of training. You got to have an intel guy, right, in charge of intelligence, because you got stuff coming in, you got to like figure out what to do with it, right?
Do both of those.
Yeah. Oh, well, so you're saying if you're on a small team,
Yeah, like mine.
then you're doing everything, right? And so there's some people. I'll give you an example. There are some churches like LDS, right? And I was talking to the what I call him again, the tactical rabbi,
Yeah.
right? And we were talking about how certain religious what's the word I'm talking about, like denominations. There's certain denominations want nothing to do with firearms, right? And that's great. And there's people who will come up to me and say like, I belong to this denomination, or I'm LDS, and they don't have security. They will never have security. I'm like, doesn't matter. They got you. You have heart. You know, you're willing to go out and do it. Here's what you do. Head over to Christian Warrior Training, get all this free training. It'll point you in the right direction. Go to a school, you know, taught by somebody that knows how to gunfight, that can teach you how to shoot and learn tactics, and then go to the range once a week. Right? And so a lot of people are like, well, we'll go to the range once a week. But man, if you miss a week, that's okay. I'm going to be very vulnerable here. I totally screwed up. When I retired, I was burned. You know, I was just like, oh, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And I didn't shoot for 2 years, which is, I've been shooting since I was 5, right? And for 2 years, I just didn't shoot. And so I came to my church, and like, you got qualified, and I always qualify 100%, whatever, man. I don't think I've ever not qualified 100%.
But not the rest, though.
And I shot and I failed, right? And I was like, and they're like, it's okay, take it again. And I'm like, no, like, I failed. What did I just do, right? And literally, they're just like, it's no big deal, man. Everybody fails. I'm like, wait, what? I'm coming on a team where everybody fails. Wait, what?
Look, the Zen garden is over there. Here's your knife. Seppuku is in your future.
And so what I did, I'm in Idaho. There's like a million. There's more retired cops in Idaho than there are regular cops, right? And so I called up a couple of SWATties that I know, and I'm like, I'm screwed up, man. Let's train each other and let's knock the rust off. And so we went to a shoot house, and we spent days over there running drills and going like, oh, we screwed, and we were all rusty. And we're like, oh, we screwed that up. Let's go back. And we're all instructors. And we all went back and we knocked the rust off. I came back, scored 100%. And you're like, oh, you scored 100%. You did so good. I'm like, can we stop talking about how I failed? Right?
You know how long it takes to get rusty with firearms?
Oh, wow. Like,
One day.
Yeah.
One day.
That's all.
Right then and there.
It's amazing how we'll go out, you know, when we get ready to do search warrants, we get a team, you know, stacked up by a van or whatever, and we're like, okay, we're going to walk through this. And our walkthrough sucked. Like, it's a good thing we walked through this a couple of times to dry run. Like, and now we're like, okay, now we're set. But you know, we all think as dudes that like, I've been doing this forever, man. I got this. I've done this a million times, and you think it's okay.
It's a prideful thing. You're like,
so, once you get your team squared away, everything's locked in, guys are training. Sometimes we could talk about the situation where you get the 3 Al Qaeda guys or girls out on the sidewalk, and it's obvious, like that's a suspicious thing. They're videotaping our church, whatever. But what about the situations where it's not as suspicious? So let's say you got somebody that's in the church and they're just sitting in the pew during a service, acting, weird, just not looking at it, whatever. There's a lot of nuance to suspicious activity. Sometimes it's not as obvious as somebody, looking like a Taliban person, walking around in robes and whatever. I think it's important as far as training staff to realize you have to, number one, recognize that, but not be afraid to do something. You think about the church shooting in Texas where the firearms instructor shot the suspect in
Southern Springs.
That was a person, I don't know all the details, but that person was acting very weird
I know the
in a
details.
church. And it seems like obviously action was not taken soon enough, despite very weird activity. And sometimes in a church, as somebody that might be a staff or a member of a church, we think everybody's welcome here. I'm not quite sure why they're here in church. Maybe they're here for the right reasons. I'm going to feel bad if I say something to this person like, hey, what are you doing? Or this, or you need to come talk to us. And my philosophy has always been this: whenever people are trying to take advantage of you, it never pays to be the nice guy.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever. And you think, well, I'll just be nice. I won't say anything. I'll just keep an eye on my guy. And that's when the hair should start standing up on the back of your neck. It's like, no, we got to take action. And whenever we take action, it starts, even if they were there that day to do something bad, as soon as you take action just by talking, it messes up whatever their program was. Maybe their plan was, I'm going to sit here in church at this point in time. When the last song starts, I'm going to do this thing. And now all of a sudden you're talking to them. And it's like the short circuit starts to happen.
Yeah.
And it gives you an advantage whenever you start to take action. Number one, because we just can't hope for things to work out, but also it specifically screws up what their thought process was and and that gives you a tactical advantage in case they decide to go real wild and just start the thing right there. It's not really what they were hoping for. And we just see that mess up their plan.
So let's even go deep in this. Let's go back to the infantry manual. Impose your will upon the enemy. And so you're imposing your will upon them instead of them imposing their will upon you. And that does put a hiccup in the plan. Let's go back to Southern Springs. Okay, so I actually just got done editing a video on this, and I'll put it out whenever I get the chance. But man comes into the church with a wig and an overcoat. And he is known problem maker for the church. They let him come in anyways. Okay, so they're standing in the where the pews are, and all of a sudden he pulls out. He's talking to the pastor. He pulls out a shotgun, but he's slow. He's got to move the overcoat. He pulls the shotgun out. Church security man he stands up and he pulls the gun from behind. And as he's coming out, the bad man shoots the pastor and then shoots the security officer. And then a guy from the other end of the range who very obviously practiced, he was firearms instructor, pulls out a 357 SIG and pops him in the dome, right? But let's go back. So I edited a video. One of the things I tell people to do is if you do one thing, practice the bill drill. Stand in front of the target, timer goes off, draw, fire 6 rounds as fast as you can. You have an imperfect grip. You have an imperfect sight picture. It's about, I'm about to die. I need to dump rounds into this guy right now, right? And you'll be amazed at having a crappy hole in your pistol. And watch how you get all A-zone hits, right? And so I put Sutherland Springs on top. I put me on the bottom. Now the advantage, I'm at the range, right? But my buzzer goes off as the shotgun comes out. I draw fire 6 rounds, assess, reholster, then he shoots. So if that church security team member had just moved his gun from the back to outside the waistband, appendix, something good, a good carry model, he would have dumped that guy and nobody would have died except for the bad man. It comes down to training. He wasn't trained. It comes at perfect training example. The firearms instructor shoots him from literally 30, 40 yards away and puts a round in his head and just drops him. That's a man that trains. And if you watch him, he didn't have a perfect grip. You watch him, and you could see the grip angle, and then you watch the rest of the security team come in. their guns out, they're flagging each other, they're flagging the audience, doing all, it was
Those
horrible.
are probably people that just said, I want to be on the team, and they was like, okay.
But they got to train.
Right.
Got to train, man. Got to train. Like on SWAT, how often were we training? I mean, I think I left where SWAT was my part-time job. We were training so much between operations and training.
And they're not going to like you for it.
No, they're not. People are
like you.
people are going to hate you because you're drawing resources, right? And the one thing I got to say with church security guys, put Christ first in your lives. Make sure because some guys will get on the team and forget to go to a service. And it really came up with my my pastor. He goes, do you realize we had church staff come out and say they had not been at church in years because they've been pastoring to everybody and ministering to everybody, right? So make sure you go to church, make sure you attend service, then serve on the security team. But you're going to have to we put in, so my team trains 4 hours a month. That's not enough, but that's what we can do with everybody's busy schedule, right? 4 hours a month is better than what a lot of other teams are doing, which is nothing.
I don't know. I'm a little far away. I'm not a big conspiracy theory guy. I don't subscribe a lot of just the world is going to end and horrible things are going to happen. But I've been around long enough to realize that something big is about to happen in this country.
Yes.
Bad.
Yes.
And I think the bad guys, terrorists, whoever, realize that time might be running out a little bit. Like things are changing a little bit in this country as far as people's attitudes and security and people defending themselves and the information from all of us getting out to people are understanding. And your life experience drives your beliefs. If nothing bad has ever happened to you in your life, you just won't believe that anything ever could bad happen. But if nothing else, take our advice from guys that have lived through a lot of crazy stuff. That not only is it possible, it's also probable. What they say is probably a military saying, but the best way to predict future behavior is what? Past behavior. And see what these terrorists are doing in other countries. It's like dry runs.
Mhm.
What they want to do here. We have all kinds of intelligence about how they're training to do attack in America. But just like the Sarah Adams episode, these people have not forgotten. No, not forgotten what we've done to them over in Iraq and Afghanistan and Bin Laden and all that kind of stuff. And it's they're playing the slow game. But if you think nothing like that, there's not going to be a coordinated terrorist attack in America on kindergartens and churches and schools. You are kidding yourself. And it doesn't mean you just go out to your church and stand there where they are 24 hours a day and wait for the bad guy.
Yeah.
It just means that you're
Bad luck.
prepared. It's not paranoid at all. Like when you pull up to a stop sign intersection and stop and look both ways, it's not because you believe the semi is going to kill you any second. That's just smart business. You're protecting yourself, you're doing the smart thing, and then you move on with your life.
Yep.
It's the same way with security, protecting yourself. But man, it's important. We all need to have the attitude of, you know what? Maybe my family, maybe the other people I'm around do not have the skills, ability, or knowledge to protect themselves. And maybe that's what I'm here for. We saw in Beslan, Russia, when the Chechen rebels attacked that school, there was hundreds of kids held hostage in the school. And I remember hearing an interview from one, and they'd been there 3 days, no bathroom breaks, no nothing, no water. They're dying, they're drinking their own urine. And one of these kids, he was about 8 years old, he's like, we just knew that what he said was the RoboCops. He said, we just knew they were coming to save us. And nobody ever did. Nope. Not one single person ever came and rescued them at all. And for me personally, I've thought, if I have the ability, if we have the training to do something, I think we all have an obligation. It's not really a choice anymore. To me, I think you're obligated to put yourself in a position to protect those other people, like those kids that can't protect themselves. So this is a journey. And if you've never been part of even thinking about how to protect yourself, your family, your church, it doesn't happen in a day or two or after a week-long class. It's almost like getting into martial arts or getting into any type of, it's a long-term thing. And we'd be glad to have you along for that journey. But it's time to step up and understand that we need people that all over America, men, women, everybody, stand up, take a stand, and be surprised how all of a sudden the snowball starts to roll. Like, oh man, you guys are doing this? I was too nervous to really ask anybody, but I want to do it too. And next thing you know, there's 50 people, 100 people. And by God, if somebody decides to come to your church, it's a bad decision. It's really bad, and we're gonna handle this.
We can all be an example. It's either going to be an example for good or an example for bad.
You know, you bring up a good point. Look, if you're a prior SWAT guy, prior military, you're a fighter, right? You need to step up and start volunteering your time. Go get your skills back together, and then figure out how you're going to help, right? And if you're like, let's say you haven't had any formal training, and you're at the range and you see a bunch of guys that are doing a really good job, then go up and talk to them and say, hey, I really want to know more. What can I do? Because I've had that happen to me at the range, where I'm running through doing drills. I've had random people come up. I had a woman come up. She goes, you really look like you know what you're doing. And I'm like, well, I got some experience, doing stuff. What do you want to know? She's like, I'm a woman. I'm worried about my security. And I'm like, awesome. You want to do a drill with me real quick? Yeah. First, let's see how you shoot. She had basics down. Awesome. You want to be really advanced? Yeah. Let's go hit this house. And she's like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to clear your house. Let me show you how you're going to do it. And for me, it was fun because if you've ever been an instructor and taught cops or taught military, they don't want to listen to you. Right. But you talk to somebody, they're like, oh, you want me to step with my right foot up front? Yes. Why? Why should I do it? Don't worry about it. We'll deal with it later. Okay. And there's no question of fighting back or anything. Yeah. And they're just hungry for it. And you feel good now, right? So I help people when they're on the range. I'll see people and I'll make hey, do you mind if I help you a little bit? And they kind of look at you. I'm a firearms instructor. I can totally help you out real quick. And they're like, yeah. Hey, change your grip. Do this. Do that. Boom. You're good. And they look at you like, thank you. Right?
My instructor once said, when it comes to cops and military folks, if you come across as trying to teach them how to do something maybe new, it's not going to stick. What you need to do is come across from a point of view of you're just reminding them of something they already know. Like, remember when somebody taught you years ago to do this? Well, let's try that again. And they're like, oh yeah, I remember that stuff. And they probably don't remember, but now they're going to just say they do. And so that's
usually smart. That would work. I like that.
I'm stealing that.
There is no industry that has more intellectual property theft than the firearms instructor industry.
Yeah, I came up with the Bill drill.
My name's Bill.
I'm named after my dad. Jay.
Hey, Keith, I got a couple points for you.
Right.
Number one, the $82 billion in equipment that we left in Afghanistan, Joe Biden and Lloyd Austin. Within days, that showed up in Pakistan for sale, and within weeks, it ended up being found in Mexico. So all of those military-grade weapons have come across our southern border.
And when you watch the new Islamic Army training videos, because they have formed, they are using American equipment.
ARs,
they're using ARs. They are doing our tactics. They're seeing the tactics that they see online. Yes. Like they're straight up stealing our tactics. So these people may look like they're, they have American tactics in a lot of ways.
So let's talk about the border real quick. So although I was a cop in Northern California, all of our cases originated, because it travels into California and then it goes everywhere else, right? And I have had occasion where I may have had a tracker on a car, watch it go across the border, and then watch it stay at a warehouse down there, and then start coming back across the border, and we follow it. The minute it crosses the border, we follow it. And we have traveled, you'll travel forever doing that, right?
Were you helping Kamala prosecute international gangs?
Kamala was my
California.
I'm going to tell you the truth. Kamala was my prosecutor. She got her start in Alameda County. However much you hate her, I promise it's not enough.
I thought you were going to tell me she was a really good prosecutor.
She was a horrible person, horrible prosecutor. I hope you're watching this. I hate you. And I know I'm a Christian, and I know hate's a powerful world, man. But
appropriate. There's stuff in the place.
If Kamala, if you're watching this, I know you're not. But, anyway, all right. I
She's 3 bottles of wine deep already.
Yeah. So, a nice little 10-second clip right there. Past that, straight to DC.
Keith's got integrity, though. I heard she offered him, an advancement in return for sexual favors, and he turned it.
That was a instantaneous response.
I got a couple more points for you that are quite as bad.
you know, you watch stuff come across the board. You know, you're seeing it too. You're in Illinois and you're watching truckloads. You know, the stuff that comes across the border is freaking amazing, and we're not going to stop it because we left it wide open. Trump he's doing such a wonderful job. I'm so happy at what's happening with shutting down the border and just letting HSI do. They're going to go kinetic on the cartels,
which needs to happen.
I have friends that have told me that get ready. You're gonna be busy coming up, right? I've had phone calls on Signal of guys they're like, we're in a warehouse. We're at. I can't say. Okay, go ahead. It's obviously a cartel warehouse in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, we need to know what this is. You know, oh, that's pink cocaine. This is what's in it. Okay, what are you going to do with it? And then it zooms in and there's C4, right? You know, like, and
we're going to distribute it.
So what they say is it's going to come from together.
But what's cool is I know that those guys get to go kinetic, and I know that stuff's going to happen, right? And we're there anyways, you know. I mean, it's not a surprise. Everybody knows that. But the stuff is here, and I'm definitely worried. I've been thinking about all the Afghan weapons, the grenades, all the C4,
night vision,
claymores, all the stuff that was left behind. It's nothing that you're right. You put it in 10 trucks, and probably all 10 of them got through. Right?
In all honesty, yeah.
Well, the way things were for the past 4 years.
About that whole thing is all that stuff, of course, actually belonged to the Afghan National Army.
Yeah.
And it had belonged to them for some time. All the high-tech stuff like the night vision gear and the drones and a lot of the radios and stuff like that, there's a ton of maintenance that has to be done on those things. The vast majority of that stuff didn't work at the time that it was even seized, much less now.
But think about a guy that has 10 grenades,
right?
Has C4 attached to a suicide vest or a claymore with a clacker. And
that works fine.
Now has an M4, right? Or an M240.
M249s.
All right.
There's all kinds of them.
And you assault a church, a mega church that has 10,000 people in it. And you're tossing grenades, doing, suicide vests with our stuff, and a guy laying down fire with a belt-fed weapon. Could that happen?
Absolutely.
We just laid out how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It has happened. Your history is a predictor of the future.
That absolutely happened.
October 7th.
In northern Israel back in the 60s and 70s.
So what you need to do is make sure, a lot of people are like, oh, I got Keltec top fed 5.7. I was watching that down here.
Oh my gosh.
What an absolute joke, man. All right. Or I got my Ruger LCP, or I have my Canic, because it's like a Glock, but cheaper. Right. Just stop.
Get 1,000 rounds into that thing.
If you have the money, buy a quality handgun. And so I was lucky. I taught all these undercover cops. And I would ask, who's been in a gunfight undercover? And I would get to talk to at least one person a month that's been in a gunfight undercover for years. And I would ask them, what gun were you carrying? And it was always Glock 43, like a little tiny Glock, or like a baby Glock. Or I was undercover, so I had a 380, right? It was always something small, because that's what narcs wear when they're undercover. I'm like, what do you carry now? Glock 34 with a light and an optic and 2 magazines, right? When you work undercover, I can hide. I carried a Glock 17 with a light and an optic, or no optic, but a Glock and a light. And I appendix carried that, and I can do whatever I want. I remember one time I got searched by, of all things, a hooker. And she's like, oh, what's up, honey? And she starts searching. She's like, what's that? And I'm like, it's a gun. Why do you have a gun? Because I don't know who you are. And she goes, fair. That was it, right? I've never been searched by any drug dealer ever, right? People don't notice. We are more worried about it than they are. But carry the biggest gun that your frame will fit. Figure out how to carry that Glock 34 in an extra mag, right?
Yeah.
And be ready, because everybody that's ever been in a gunfight, they always wish they had a bigger gun.
Look at the Joel Osteen's church.
Yes.
In Texas, where they're going through mags of ammunition, and
Because they weren't advancing.
well, that's no problem. If you're shooting from 50 yards all day.
Yeah.
But you go through that in a hurry, and I've never heard anybody that's been in a gunfight that says, "I wish I had less ammunition."
Never.
It's always, and if you're going to be in a security position, good grief! Please, for everything holy, do not show up with your Ruger LCP.
No.
it's like, get up 100%, get the very biggest gun that you can still comfortably carry, extra ammo, extra mags, and be ready to go to work with that thing.
Your everyday carry should be no less than a Glock 19. If you don't have the money, and I get this, right? I was contacted by somebody, I only have $400 for a gun. And I was like, ooh, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. So me and Matt over at 2A Cops got together, and we on our own bought like 6 of the most popular under $400 handguns. And we did a test. You go over to 2A Cops, go watch it. The Dagger.
Yep.
Yes, I
was the winner. Why? Because it's a Glock 19 Gen 3, right?
Yep.
And so my recommendation is to go on, if you live in America, is to go on to whatever place you go to buy guns online and go get a used Glock. Okay? Atlantic Arms right now has a sale of used Glock Gen 2 police trade-ins. They've been well maintained. I was a Glock armor. We change springs. We have a routine maintenance schedule. Go buy that Glock 17 for like $200, $300, right? If you want something brand new, go buy that. I was talking to PSA today. They're working on, man, what was that? Sorry, my situation where it's just
We all were like, what?
Don't talk about what's going on in the next room.
We'll be right back, folks.
I think I just heard a Joker getting tortured, but I'm not sure. All right. Sorry.
This all mattress fall off the roof.
Oh, so look, you're able to do that. I remember, so I always have a Dagger that I always use to talk about cheap handguns. There was a guy very recently told me he had to take a long trip, and I'm like, you should not go without a gun. And my friend Rich is over there. It was actually a friend of ours, and he's going to drive Texas. I'm like, you need a gun, and he can't afford it. And so I'm like, here you go. Here's a Dagger. It's all yours. He's like, thanks. I'm like, I'll go buy another one. It cost me $300. I went to PSA and bought a $300 Dagger, right?
Yeah.
And now I have another one. I will probably give that one away too. I talked to PSA today. They're like, actually, we think we can give you one for your testing if you want, because I'm not going to poop on it. Dagger's a great gun.
Yeah.
But if you have means, this is what I always hear. Why just buy the Dagger? But the guy can afford a $2,500 Staccato. No, man. Look, man. If you have the money, then buy the decent handgun.
Yeah.
Right. But if you don't have the money, like what I really like to see, got to go out and buy a Staccato XC. They cost $5,000, and they have no formal training. Hey, do you have a Glock? Never been to a training class?
Never trained.
Yep, they've never trained. Never been to a decent training class. Don't shoot very often. I'm like, stop. Spend $300 on a Dagger. Spend $4,700
On ammunition and
on
training.
ammunition and training. And then when you're done, you're going to be the biggest gunfighter to ever walk this earth, because that's a lot of ammo and that's a lot of training. When you're done, then come out and buy whatever you want.
And don't get anything else on that gun. Don't get a red dot. I wouldn't even, if somebody's new to this, just get a gun.
Yeah.
For the luck, like this.
Until you know what you're
Yes,
doing.
we cannot make this complicated. Like I said earlier, this is a journey. You cannot, even though if you can't look at Keith and be like, oh man, he's got this and all these, like that's different. There's somebody that's at the the year 35 of a law enforcement security journey. Is going to have different tools and equipment than somebody that's just starting out. So keep it basic. Just start with the basics. And there's plenty of time to. I know we're guys. We like to soup up our stuff, cars, gear, whatever. We like to customize things, and those things will happen. But they're not going to make you better. A new trigger isn't going to make you better. A red dot's not going to make you better. None of this stuff is going to make you better.
And I'll tell you this. Me and Dave did an interview with Jerry Mitchelllick yesterday. Jerry Mitchelllick is probably one of the most amazing. He is a legend. You watch this dude at 70 years old is faster than just about anybody still. The dude is a monster. You know what he told us as advice? Buy ammunition and train. Buy ammunition and train. That's a guy that's been shooting for 60 years.
So there's a cop here that worked for an agency next to me, and we were getting ready for the police Olympics. He is now a national 3-gun champion. He makes about $500,000 a year in like winning stuff, right? And he's like, let's get ready for the police Olympics. I've been a SWAT guy, I'm an instructor, and he's like, his whole thing was like, he was really fast. I'm like, dude, how'd you get this fast? I'm not kidding. He shoots 500 rounds a day. He has an ammo sponsor. He starts his day up at the range, at the police range, because it's on his way to work. All he does is drill, 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 drill. And you watch him. He's a national 3-gun champion for a reason. He'll shoot like 200 rounds of rifle, like 100 rounds of double aught. Then he'll roll into his pistol and he goes to work. I mean, now, do you need to do that? Please don't do that.
I need to do that. Sounds like a good life.
Ammo sponsor. Then please send it our way.
If you don't have any money, because I like to go back because a lot of people don't have any money. We forget that, right?
So Keith, how can you train if you don't have?
Oh, by the Mantis system. No, here's the best one for free. It's just dry fire. Make sure your gun's clear. But
Working that trigger.
But yeah, man, just go back and dry fire. Here's the other thing I do. I clear my house every day. I got my Mantis gun that has the laser in it, right? And I picked that thing up. I've been in so many gunfights in my house that have never occurred, but like, you're not going to attack my house without getting dumped, man, because I've like taken every angle, made every approach. My wife is totally normal. I go through my house and I got, my wife, I'm like, go set up targets, babe. And she goes, that's up my targets, right? And then she go back, she's reading her iPad, and I'm clearing the house, angling, like, oh, there it is, right? And shooting. And then she's like, hey, I want to take a cruise. Yeah, where do you want to go? And she's like, well, I want to go to England. Awesome, let's do it. How much is it going to cost? This much? No, we're not going to do that. I need ammo. Right now. Well, like, we have this normal conversation. It's up in the middle. She's like, why is this normal in our house? I don't know. Don't worry about it. You know what my son does? My son grew up with me doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what my son does now? It's a forensic exam, computer examiner. He runs around like, doing this in his house, and he's really good. Really good.
There's no more joy a father can have than seeing like his 8-year-old son with a BB gun clearing the house.
Shout out to Daisy.
I knew my son was on track when I look out in the court and they're having a Nerf war, and he yells out, "Hey, index!" Oh, I love you so much, son.
That's awesome.
Your son and his 3 buddies with their Nerf guns, and somebody screams contact.
Oh my God! So there was some shit out there, and he yells out, "Reloading!" And my son runs up and pops him with the Nerf gun. He goes, "You can't do that do it behind cover," and he keeps running. I'm like, go get him, boy.
And then we graduated into mill simming.
My friend Rich over here is just laughing because he's seen it. Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh, that's good.
What's
That's
your
good.
next one? All right.
Well,
I got a handful of points here that I was just going to throw
You want me
in,
to
but
talk faster next time.
not at all.
All right.
Those M249 saws in Afghanistan, by the way, we're selling in Pakistan for $1,200.
Oh, we need
And-
to take a flight to that. We need to go to Pakistan. That's a bargain. $1,200.
Yeah,
There's a good airport in Lahore.
Whatever, man. Can you come in my protection detail and we'll figure out how to get it back?
I've
Fly to Mexico.
I've
We'll pack it
never-
up, fly to
Yeah,
Mexico,
just-
and then bring it
I've never been to Pakistan.
up.
Apparently, it doesn't happen if he's not checking his stuff when he returns from another country. So
That is a thing.
You know what we do? We ship it one part at a time, Johnny Cash style.
And
We can
yeah,
just go there, land, and then mail like bulk carrier group, barrel.
1979, 80, 81, 82.
One part at a time, man.
yeah.
So the crazy thing is how I know that is a buddy of mine's father-in-law used to be the minister of defense in Pakistan, and my buddy's an international arms dealer and was in Pakistan and sent me a screenshot of the M249 saws going for $1,200. Okay, but what's even funnier is he bought a bunch of full auto Iwi Galils in Israel when they switched over to the AR platform. Yeah, and he had a guy over there cut them in half and shipped them into the United States and reassembled them here and sold them for $1 gazillion
Oh, that's
each.
awesome.
So it's actually the Johnny Cash method's a real thing.
Oh yeah.
I had one point on the complex attacks that not only multiple locations across the country in one day, but several days to create paralysis. They flat out said that if they have one attack like 10-7, yeah, it freaks everybody out. But if they attack multiple locations today, we do it again tomorrow, they do it again the next day, 2 things happen. Nobody sends their kids to school. Nobody goes to work.
Can you imagine?
So the whole
So go back-
society collapses at that point.
Go back to 2020. Your kids aren't going to school now.
Yeah.
And now like everybody's shut down because now I don't have my daycare.
So one of the things to look at on that particular scenario, and you and I have discussed this previously, where, okay, so a couple of guys go into said church school, whatever venue. They shoot the place up. Every cop in the county shows up and they're looking what direction? In. They're not looking behind them. Nobody's ever looking behind them. Now you've got their guys who are there specifically for the first responders. They shoot up the first responders. Everybody pulls out. They coalesce at a rally point. Tomorrow we're going to do it again in the next town over. And the next town, and the next town, and the next town over, because they're working on a Shahidi or Fedayeen style of warfare. We're in this until we die. And we're going to continue these operations until we're all dead. So there's no talking people like that down. There's no putting cuffs on.
Yeah, so Mike, so maybe you've talked about this on here before already, but New Orleans New Year's Day guy, what was they said he had an IED somewhere there on
He
First
had
Street?
several IEDs there. I can talk a little bit about them. The bottom line was, so great explosives, outstanding electronics packages, put together wrong.
So the x-rays were actually put out on the press.
That stuff was solid. That
Yeah.
stuff was solid IEDs. I'll talk to you more about it after we're offline.
That's not somebody like taking fireworks.
No, I am
He was taught.
convinced that there was a bigger cell there, and they're squashing it.
So the cops did a great job. The minute they ran over, they were on him and dumped him fast.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's the reason why he crashed into that genie lift. It wasn't, he didn't run into it. He was probably
He was shot
shot
at.
at and crashed into it.
So, look, man, I always make fun of New Orleans PD because of corruption issues and stuff like that. I'm going to give it to them, man. Those guys did a good job. I'm not going to make fun of Enola anymore.
They dumped that guy.
And, we always get mad at Uvalde. You should be mad. Those guys did a horrible job, and that was DEI at its finest. There were people in positions that shouldn't have been, right? Take that away. There are courageous cops in every city, and we've worked with a lot of them. And there are guys that are just out there, just ready to take care of business. Uvalde just ruined it for all of us.
That's exactly how civilians in a church can handle the same exact scenario. It doesn't have to be, police or a SWAT team. It can
No.
be just anybody with the right mindset of like, here's this thing happening, we're going to handle it. And that's how you stop the stuff. And yeah, there might initially be a few casualties somewhere, but that's better than having hundreds of casualties somewhere.
Right.
And you got to just have the attitude of
You
That's-
gotta have the guts to march for the sound of the guns.
Yep.
That's all there is.
What was the one? I think it was in Texas where there were two guys pulled up in a vehicle. They were going to go into some kind of, was it a Muhammad painting thing or something? And they were going to shoot it up. And the dude walked up. Yeah, draw Muhammad. And that's like,
first ISIS hit in America.
yeah. And a dude walked up, saw what was going on, and shot both of them while they were still in the
So that was
vehicle.
He was an off-duty cop.
That was
Yeah.
it was working a day job.
Yeah.
But anybody that has a certain level of training and situational awareness and paying attention, get off of these when you're walking around. Look at stuff, look at what's going on around you. You'll catch a lot of things. You'll see some really funny stuff, but you'll also see some stuff that's like, I use an example. We went to the Vertex party, and they have this new influencer or something called the Urban Ghost. And it's this dude that walks around really weird, like in this clothing. You'd have to see it to believe. The first time he walks around, I look at Dave, I'm like, who the heck is this guy?
You see that, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, am I about to have to take this dude down? And after about 30 minutes, the guy that invited us there, we texted him. He's like, yeah, that's what you get when you have females that don't understand police and charge of marketing. They had to send him because everybody's like freaking out. Like, this dude's acting weird. It's throwing us off. Like, we're not cool with this. And that's like, you don't throw that kind of stuff, but that's the kind of stuff when you see something weird going on.
Yeah, I texted the dude in charge. I'm like, is this legit? Or is this like a weirdo that's, like, I don't know what's going on, but doesn't look right.
Because everybody here is doing press checks.
Yeah. It's like,
Well, I would add to Dave's comments from earlier that if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And don't be afraid to profile.
So
We
I always,
can't be politically correct.
so I always I see security users are like, oh, this guy's suspicious, and they start watching them. And on my team, I literally will walk up and go, hey, my name's Keith. I'm on the church security team. How are you today? Oh, I'm fine. Hey, are you new to Eagle Christian Church? And they're like, yeah, I am. Oh, don't know where to go? Yeah, here, let's go to the Welcome Center. Done. He's just a new Christian, like didn't know what's going on.
Mhm.
And there's another lady, I saw her and I'm like, oh, RETAC indicators. So she comes out like, ma'am, Keith with church security, come on over here. And she's like, I already know your church security. Your pastor is killing the children. He's possessed by the devil. And I'm like, oh yeah.
And
Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Here we go. Right? And so I get a lot of people like, don't tell them your church security. Man, look, you were plain clothes like I did. The best thing to do is when you're in plain clothes is it is all imposing your will, right? Throwing them off killer. I walk up, I'm with church security. How are you today? And when I find out, like, oh, I'm new here. Oh, great. And you transition, I'm a greeter, right? But like identify yourself because you have to show you have authority. And that person now knows that you have the authority. You're taking them off kilter. You've imposed their will, whatever they're for her. She was going to attack our pastor. That's what she was there for. And she's like,
little bubble cloud.
oh, yeah.
And
And
they know.
Well, what's funny is my entire team was LA County deputies that have retired and moved there. They work gangs and all this other stuff. I'm like, guys, I need some. I got a 5150. And they're like, en route. You know, and like you see them walk over, just like, I'm leaving. Awesome. Let me walk you outside. You know, like,
That
let's go.
situation happens all the time. You get
Yes.
people that they just don't know. Like, well, here's somebody. And I don't know if they're suspicious or not, or if I just don't know. Well, how am I supposed to figure it out? And you figure it out through either just talking to that person, very clear commands, like, hey, you know, I'm Keith, I'm Dave. What can I do for you? You're interjecting to get a response, and then you're evaluating that response. And you base your actions on what that response is. And if you don't interject that, you'll never know. You can't just trust.
Does anybody know how many planes have been hijacked that originated in Israel?
0.
Correct. You know why?
They profile.
Like a mother, but
Oh, yeah.
they do what Dave just said. So every person who comes on prem at an airport, regardless of their mode of transportation, is asked 2 questions: what's your name? What's your destination?
Yep.
And that throws the bad guys off frequently, so they say.
Yep.
And then when they go inside, you have to check your bag or check in to get your boarding passes to Israel. You can't check in online and just walk it. So the person behind the counter is asking probing questions. They're trained to profile and trip you up and analyze you. And then there's all kinds of undercover people walking around watching body language. They say that the average time from getting on-prem to getting to your gate is 20 minutes in Israel.
I was going to ask you guys for sure. How do we train people in a church to do, like, a lot of people in church don't have experience to profile like the police do.
Right.
How do we do that?
Yeah. Okay. Go to Christian Warrior Training. Take all the training that's for free. I've got all the basics there. And one of them we talk about is how to protect your church from threats. And it goes over basically left of bank. It talks about left of bank stuff, which is atmospherics, you know, like what's normal for my church. All of a sudden things aren't normal, right? And it came from guys in Iraq driving down the road, and all of a sudden they're like, there's nobody on the street. Wait, there's always people on the street. Why is there nobody on the street?
It's
I'm
hot.
about to get attacked, right? You know, what's not normal for your church? 3 Afghans dressed nicely asking me if I have a live stream while they take photos. I've never seen that before, right? And so, dude, I'm sorry, I got old moment. What are we talking? Oh, how are they going to learn about profiling? And it's just, I know, right? Dude, you're the same age as me.
That sometimers kicks in real hard sometimes.
So look, you know, you're just looking for what's outside the norm for your church. And then you just have to have the balls to walk up and go, my name's Keith. I'm with church security. How are you today? I'm fine. Let me put it this way. I love drum runners. They're hilarious. Imagine you yourself right now have 10 kilos of cocaine in your car and the police just pulled you over. Are you going to be normal? No. You're going to be like, how are you today, sir? My name is Officer Graves. I'm with whatever police department. Hi, officer. I remember there was a drug smuggler. I saw the car and I was like, drug smuggler, right? Like that guy was freaked out. And I was on a motor, and motors are the best. I roll up next to him and I go, and I'm literally like this close. And I'm looking like this, and the dude's like,
Never looked up for
right? And so we call them no looks. They won't look at you. To the point. I love doing this. This is the best. You take your sword and you go, woo! While you're looking at them, and they just go. State Park. That is the best. Dude, that's the best ever. And you're just come to Papa Baby, right? You always start calling, start me 3 units. You know, I'm like, you know, you already start calling it out. And the dude was loaded with like 40 kilos of coke, dude. It was hilarious, right? And he's like, how did you get me? I don't know. Right? You know,
I don't know. You weren't sending any signals.
right? Yeah, right? But you see what I'm talking about? Like,
Yep.
this guy in church, you're going to blow the church up. And you kind of go, hi, my name's Keith. I'm church security. How are you? I didn't anticipate this.
Yeah.
Right? And then they start sweating, right? That doesn't mean you put a bullet in them, right? So
Yeah.
you're taking the initiative. Totally. You're imposing your will.
Yeah, well, I would teach guys, young cops. And I think it's because there's not a lot of veteran cops teaching young cops anymore. It's just all young cops.
Because we all left.
Routinely, I said, if you want to really find out, or number one, keep yourself safe, or figure out what suspicious stuff is going on, tell the people you're dealing with just to do stuff that maybe you wouldn't normally do. Like maybe, okay, I need you to get out of the car. And maybe you don't really have any reason, but you just want to see what their reaction is when you tell them to get out of the car. Or you're on the street talking to somebody and you say, hey, I need you to come stand over here. Well, why? Just because I said, I want you to know, number one, I'm in charge. I'm running this. And number two, I want to see what your reaction is. I want to gauge you. I want to look in your eyeballs. I want to figure out, are you starting now to look around, like where you can run off to, or, I'm gauging your behavior. And so maybe you don't
touch the handgun in their waistband.
Yeah, maybe you don't have
Sweat starting.
maybe you don't have a frame of reference for what criminal behavior is, but everybody has a frame of reference for what normal in your life is. If you're at the ATM getting money out and some dude walks up and stands 1 foot from your window while you're waiting for your cash to come out, that's not normal. You would never do that. So why would you just sit back and let somebody stand next to your car while you're at the ATM? So there's life normal that we can all gauge people's behavior off of. So if nothing else, if you don't have experience in security or law enforcement or military, gauge behavior based on your own life. Like, what would you do in these situations? Does it look normal for you? And if nothing else, use that as a guide.
And Tony Blauer talks about that too. He says, everybody that's been in one of these situations always says, I really felt like something wasn't normal. I knew something bad was about to happen.
Your gut is going to tell you that something's going on. Listen to it.
All right. So just to throw this for the Christians that are out there, how many for us have been in bad positions? How many times did you see it start and you're like, this is going bad? And the little voice tells you, you need to go to the left. You need to go to the right. That voice. I firmly believe it was God telling me what to do. And a lot of people ignore that message, right? And we talked about this before. Humans are the only animal on the planet that don't run when it senses danger. And I'm telling you, I've had rape victims where it's like, I was walking here, and then all of a sudden this guy showed up, like this big African-American man stood in front of me. And I'm like, 2:00 in the morning in an alley in this really bad part of town. And you didn't think to run. Well, I thought I was going to look like a racist. Doesn't matter if you're white, black, Hispanic, whatever. It's 2:00 in the morning in this bad alley and they're blocking your way. What did you think was going to happen? Right. But you don't do that to a crime victim, right? You always like, but in your mind, you're like, come on, man. Like they always say, I never thought this would happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Even cops. I'll give you an example. Guy took my gun and tried to shoot me. And we fought over that gun for 5 minutes. Right. And totally just scared the crap out of me. I thought I was going to die that day. Never thought I'd be the guy to have my gun taken from me. Ever. Because I'm too good. But it happened. I remember when he got it and then we're holding it. And I'm like going, oh no. This is the how did this happen? Right.
Record scratch.
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
Use this gun harder.
oh man. And I'm trying to do all the things of eject the mag, and I'm not able to do it. And I remember just twisting it and I heard his finger snap because it was at trigger guard. And I remember he looked at me and he's like,
Uh-oh.
That was
This is
what I was
going to be
expecting,
a
right?
long
But my
night.
point is I didn't think that was going to happen to me, but it did. But thank God I trained, right? And I did what my training was supposed to do, and it worked for the most part, right? A lot of people, though, they don't think it's going to happen to them. They don't train for it because they think it's not going to happen. And then they do sense danger and they ignore it. Look, man, God is telling you to do something. You should freaking listen.
Yep.
That's it. Sorry.
No, I completely
I'm totally
agree.
going off on this
No,
episode. I'm
yeah.
stealing all your guys' time.
No, this is important information. You know, what's really funny is the guys that have actually been in these situations, those are the guys that a lot of times are the ones that train the hardest post these situations. They get serious because they realize how serious and how prepared you have to be for this stuff.
Like assault victims, sexual assault victims, we talked to a lot of females that said the same thing. I never thought this would happen to me. And all of a sudden that changes their whole mindset. Now their life experience drives their beliefs. They believe it could happen again. And then they go get a gun. Like I don't want some dude pulling my pants off of me again in the parking lot behind the mall. This is not going to happen to me. And yes, they understand that it is possible. I tell guys and girls in my classes, from a law enforcement perspective, before I was a cop, you try to imagine, like you look out the window here in Vegas, we can see 80% of Vegas out here, and you wonder how much crime is going on. You're like, well, it's Vegas, there's a lot of crime going on. For most people's neighborhoods, you're just like, it's not a lot of crime in my neighborhood. I got a decent house and things are okay. Then you get into law enforcement, you kind of see behind the curtain a little bit, like, oh, yeah, there's a lot of drugs and stuff. Then you got into a drug unit where we get to listen to people's phone calls, follow them around, dig through their trash, and you start to realize, like, holy smokes, and you realize that, you know, I guess I'm probably maybe more pessimistic than a lot of people, but my gut feeling is that most of society is not good. The good people are like the lower percentage. It's almost like the description I give is like the world out there is like a waterbed where the mattress, it's mostly water, a thin film membrane on the top and the sides, and we live on top of that, and you don't see the water. You go home, you go to work, you get your coffee, you don't get carjacked, you come home and you think everything's fine, and you're on top of the criminal element all the time. And every once in a while, an armed robbery happens, and that's like a leak in the waterbed. Like, oh, you're reminded of like, oh, there's crime, but it's not like the crime.
I didn't get wet.
Yeah, it's not like the crime really is just popping up. It's actually everywhere, and you just don't see it. And so we're just trying to, you know, encourage you to do everything you can to protect yourself and be ready. It's so hard, but if you haven't lived that or understand it or been a victim before, it's hard to convince yourself that I really need to just trust these people and believe. So I get there's a big hurdle, but we're just hoping you can take our advice and understand that, and maybe you'll see for yourself someday that yes, it's not like you go years and nothing bad happened to you when you weren't around close calls. It's just, it's everywhere. You just don't understand. I've had a lot of calls. I've been on calls before where we've been at big cult parties and bars letting out, and there'll be a shooting later on, and we'll go back and pull a video from the parking lot, and you're like, oh, here comes the guy out of the bar, and he walks right. I watched one, it creeped me out. It's a bar called Hangar 9 in Carbondale, and there was a guy had tried to do a robbery on a lady in a minivan, and he had pulled the trigger on this lady, missed, the gun malfunctioned, she didn't die. We pulled a video of him leaving this bar, and he walks out, and we were at bar closing, a bunch of us standing in the parking lot watching this crowd. He walks right behind me. Walks by me real slow, is looking at me, and we're just kind of looking around, and he walks off. I'm like, man, how close? He could have pulled a gun out and probably shot me. I mean, you just don't understand how close you are to the bad thing happening in your life sometimes. So why not be ready? Why not be the person 100% is going to be there to protect your family, your kids, for crying out loud? And I think we're all obligated.
Yeah, psychologically, that is one of the biggest problems that a lot of humans have, especially Americans, is that we live in this little bubble in Western society. This bubble is an anomaly. The rest of the world is not like this. Once you go out, you step out there where the dogs bark. You hang around in Africa. You hang around in Central Asia, stuff like that. You see what the real world is and go, oh, we live on an island. Yeah. And then you come back and you're like, no, it's coming to the island, man. And everybody looks at you and says, you're crazy. That's not possible. The whole world's like this. And they don't actually understand that it's the truth. We live in an anomaly.
How dare you insult my comfortable ignorance?
Yes.
Well, Tony Blauer, the context he puts that in is that Americans have outsourced their security for decades, if not hundreds of years.
Yeah.
So they assume that they're safe at all times because they've outsourced their
And then the
security.
outrage comes because we do see that brutality a lot of times when the police have to deal with these dirtbags. And then we blame the police for dealing with the garbage. Sorry about that. Dealing with the garbage and taking care of the crime that is spilling through that waterbed. You know, it's like, use an example, George Floyd. Dude's hopped up on freaking, you know, a level of
pharmacy in it.
yes. And we blame the cops for him dying of a heart attack. You know, yes. And the other thing is that police department trained the actual method that guy used to restrain him.
Wow.
But we blame the police. And then we want to thin out that line that's holding, you know, using the analogy of waterbed, we want to thin out that mattress to where now it's just, there's nothing there. There's nothing in the way.
But we still don't want to see it.
No,
Next point.
please lie to me.
Well, somebody made a comment really early in the video that there's no risk posed to us because we have more guns than anywhere else in the world.
Oh,
And we
dude.
and then the person said we have 2 billion rounds of ammo. Actually, the number's over 1 trillion.
Yeah.
Big difference from 1 billion
Way
to 1
off there,
trillion.
man.
But
A few billion.
Yeah.
maybe reiterate one more time how, you know, shooting skills in particular are a perishable skill. So maybe just hit on that one last time on the importance of training and the frequency of training as well. It's not go to the range once a month and think that you're not equipped.
One of the biggest hurdles that we see in our training classes is people have this false sense of security of what a gun is capable of and what it can do. We see people come up with all these dumb ideas of like, I'm gonna get this North American Arms 2-shot whatever revolver and put it in my pocket and I'll be fine because it's a gun. And then you just see a gun and obviously a 2-year-old can pick up a gun and make it go off. So in our minds, it's like this is a simple machine. It's easy to use. And so what the thought for a lot of people is, what should I be training to do with this thing? We hear, if I ever have to use a gun, it's just going to be a foot away. Or, you know, I use a gun because I'm too old to fight, or I can't get in physical fights, so I'm just going to shoot them. And there's all these myths. 90% of our training is just erasing the myths involved, handguns and shooting and ammo, all that kind of stuff. And so you don't have to shoot 1,000 rounds a day or 500 rounds a day, but you have to understand this is a journey and you are building a set of skills to where, if you're honest, the only way to be really effective is if we can be what we call subconsciously competent, to where you can run that machine without having to think about every step of the way. It just becomes natural. You don't have to think about, where do my hands go? How do I hold this thing while the bad guy is trying to chop my face off with a knife? We just want you to deploy that gun to defend yourself without having to think about it. So there's a long process there. Hopefully, and here's the cool thing, you don't need to come to a training class once a week for 20 years to get good at this. You know, my kids took piano lessons and guitar lessons, and those things go on for years and years and years. It's just like never ending. It isn't like that, but what's important is somebody, some person, some decent instructor has to tell you the right way to do things. Like, here's how this works. And you might imagine that there's a million different ways to run a gun, and I guess there is, but there's only a few ways to run it really effectively and efficiently. But if somebody can get you on the tracks with the right information, you can just shove yourself down the tracks as far as you want to go on your own. You can work on this stuff for free at home, dry fire at the range, as long as somebody gets you started well.
Yeah.
Everybody needs. Could you just train yourself off of YouTube and go to the range? There's some people out there, I guess, could do that. But our suggestion is find a professional instructor, have somebody in the beginning of your journey show you how to do this right in the beginning, and then knock yourself out with as much training as you.
I'll point this out, and Dave's used this analogy, and I'll add to it. Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods both had training coaches that looked at them and said, hey, you are the best, but this is how you get better.
Yes.
And that's what an instructor, an in-person instructor, that's the difference. You can learn a lot of techniques from working on an online course to sell to people, but it does not replace an in-person instructor that knows what to look at, that's going to look at you, because as an instructor, we look at the shooter. We know that if the shooter looks right, the target's going to get better. That's going to get better. But the techniques that you use to put your hands in the right place, to manage recoil, to, you know, set yourself up for success. That's what the advantage of an in-person instructor that beats out any kind of online training you could do.
When our training progresses like this, class starts out, we talk about concepts, theories. Why do we do this? Why do we want to defend ourselves? Why do you want this gun? Then it goes into mechanics. Here's where you put your hands. Here's how you stand. And then we get out to the range and we see what your performance level is. And you get to see what your performance level is. It's performance on demand. Like, how do you think you did? If you don't know, I'll tell you, you sucked at this. On a nice sunny day from 5 yards away, you sucked really bad.
But nobody's shooting back.
We're not trying to be mean to you, but you need to understand if somebody was trying to kill you right now, you would have been killed. And your family would be having a funeral. Your 5-year-old kid would be crying in the front row of the funeral home. You would die. And you have to be honest as an instructor with people. It can't be like, oh, you failed at the call, Keith, everything's going to be good. That's, as an instructor, that's horrible. You're not doing your job. You got to be honest with people. So
Question for Dave and Keith in that vein, and most non-professionals, if you ask them this question, the answers are way, way off. How close do you let somebody get with a knife before you shoot them?
The minute he poses a threat.
The minute you see that knife.
yeah, a lot than what most people imagine.
That's where I'm going.
It could be, you know, there. First of all, there is no number. There's no magic 21-foot line. It's all relative. However, what we've seen in my law enforcement experience is that knives, I would be more scared of a knife attack than a gun attack any day.
Oh,
yeah. If somebody said, hey, Dave, this is a bad day. We're either going to stab you or shoot you. What do you want us to do? I'm like, get the gun out right now. I think I might hold together and live through the shooting. Stabbing is extremely, extremely dangerous. And on top of that, if you shoot the suspect, what we see, you know, one of the myths that's involved is that, number one, pain compliance stops suspects, which is a lie. It does not work. Also, the human body does not usually shut down immediately after a shooting. So there's going to be some time before the human body quits. Even if you knock out the circulatory system, the respiratory or central nervous system, you know, that's how you stop a human, but that still might take 2, 5, 10 seconds. Who knows?
You're getting stabbed.
So there is no specific distance. But we see people give people way too much leeway. We've got a video we show in our class of a guy in Detroit. He walked into the front lobby of one of the Detroit police precincts, got in a shootout with the cops, and one of the officers from 1 foot away shot the suspect with a 40 caliber Glock right in the chest and the heart. And the suspect, who had a sawed-off shotgun, walked around on his feet for 10 more seconds trying to kill more cops. For 10 seconds after getting blasted. So you got to think to yourself, what is this suspect who's threatening me? What is he going to be able to do to me for 10 more seconds after I shoot him? Can he run 40 yards?
10 seconds is a very
In a gunfight? In a gunfight? Yeah.
eternity.
Most gunfights are like 3 seconds.
I just want to piggyback on this really quick. I show a video in my church security class, and I'm like, tell me when you would shoot. I give it, and it's a video from Seattle of a concealed carrier pointing a gun at a man with a knife. What you don't see on video is the man just killed his wife and his kid with a knife. And he's walking away, and you hear him say, I killed my wife, I killed my wife. You got the knife, and he's bloody. And a concealed carrier pulls his gun and says, put the knife down. The guy walks with the knife towards the concealed carrier is retreating. And basically they're walking around this park. And finally, a guy with pepper spray runs up to this distance, pepper sprays him, and then runs away, right? And the whole time, look at this. I've shown that video to over 1,000 people. And a clear majority say, well, I wouldn't shoot him yet. You got to get your head in the game, man. The guy just killed his wife and his kid and now has a knife, and you're retreating. Well, he's kind of offset though, and people are making up like justifications, right? It's like, I go, the minute I see him in the frame, I go, shoot him right now. And I legit have people tell me, like, well, how are you going to do that? You can't justify that. What planet are you guys on? He killed his wife and his kid. He could be running away from me with a knife, and I'm going to shoot him in the back because he's going to stab somebody else down the road.
Well, Dave's answer,
You know what I mean?
Dave's answer, the most interesting one I've ever heard, where he said, I'd rather be stabbed than shot. I haven't heard anybody else say that, but a stat that I don't know, I can't confirm the veracity of it, but it was from a detective in Port Orange, Florida, said that if you get stabbed once, it's a 50-50 shot that you'll survive. If you get stabbed 2 or more times, it drops to something like less than 5% chance of surviving. Might take you a couple days to die of going septic or something like that. But he was telling us a story because they had an undercover cop who was a narc. They had all kinds of support personnel around. He was with this gang that was dealing drugs. They determined that he was a narc. He had a gun on him. He completely froze. And the bad guy had a knife, a pocket knife, where it was like a 2-inch blade. And he stabbed him 38 times and killed him. And the detective showed us the pictures and said, this is what happens when you freeze. And
There was
here's the other thing about knives. The reason that suspect in Detroit walked around for 10 seconds is his shotgun malfunction. He tried to eject a shell and it got jammed up, and that's why he couldn't shoot any more cops. A knife is not going to malfunction. So, holy smokes, it's one of those weapons.
So my wife and I have a friend who's a surgeon, and he used to be the head of surgery actually at Halifax in Daytona Beach, which is the hospital beside the Speedway. You know, when you see the helicopters come in because there's NASCAR crash, it's literally going half a mile to Halifax. He had a guy that Daytona Beach PD brought in, point blank range. They shot him in the forehead, and the bullet went under the skin, over his scalp, and was lodged in the back of his neck. And he's showing me a picture. The guy's got a smile on his face. And Mike, all he had to do was just nick the back of his skull and pulled the 45 slug out. He said the average human skull could be anywhere from 3/8 to 3/4 of an inch. And if it's 3/4 of an inch, the headshot's probably not going to kill them at close range like that from a handgun.
One thing I want to bring up earlier was if you get shot, you have a 95% chance of living.
Wow.
Only 5% of the people that get shot die.
Wow.
Right. I had a similar incident. I was on a react team for a hostage taking, and while they were negotiating the whole time, I'm thinking like, we just need to go, right? Like I think he's gonna shoot her, and he did. He shot her in the back of the head, and we do a dynamic entry, clear it. We get up to the top of the stairs, and she's in the middle of the stairs, and I was like, hey, cover me. I'm gonna go grab her, and people are like, why? Dude, you got 95% chance of living, and so they covered. We had a little incident at the top of the stairs while I'm dragging her away, and he dies. And the woman, I remember I did a sternal rub on her, and then she reached up and grabbed me. She had been shot in the back of the head with a 380, and the round went between the dirt and the brain, went around, hit the top of the skull up here, and then went straight down through the frontal lobe. So you see entrance here, but you see her like eye was like kind of hanging out and pushed out. And so people were thinking like, well, look, dude, headshot. Dude, 95% chance of living. That's all you got to remember. All right. And dude, I remember I was working on her, and the paramedic came up, and he goes, "Ah, she's dead." And I'm like, and I had an argument with her to the point of, I'm like, "You're fired. You're done." And the cops took the ambulance, and we used paramedics from the fire truck, and we took the AMR ambulance, code 3 to Oakland. With the, it was all bad, right? Because everybody would show up with a cop driving and a cop in the back and a firefighter, paramedic. It's like, what the hell happened?
Supervisor's calling later.
Oh yeah,
You're too late to be what's happening.
Well, I told the paramedic, I'm going to arrest you. Get the fuck out of here. You know, and the woman lived. She asked to talk with us, and to be honest, I wasn't really hip on talking to her because, like, you know, just I don't know, it's weird, right? But she came up and she's like, I recognize your voice. I was laying there and I couldn't talk. I couldn't say anything. And you were having an argument with somebody. And I'm like, yeah, the paramedic. And he's like, obviously was like, please listen to the police officer, because she was thinking she was going to die there. Right.
Wow.
But my whole point of the story though, is she was shot in the head. She looked like she was dead. So my point is, you have an attack at your church, wherever. The only way, they talk about run, hide, fight. No, man, there's fight, fight, fight. If you don't kill this guy right now, most people are going to die. If you don't have a weapon, find a weapon, stab that guy with a pin, do whatever. If you're charging and you get shot, 95%, don't worry about it. Keep going. All right? If that person hit bone, if it doesn't hurt, it went through tissue. Keep going. Stab that guy with your pin, whatever. You should have brought a gun, right? And then go take care of it.
Let's say the 3 people outside your church that are acting weird, let's say they do the attack and they get in and they've shot a bunch of people, and now they're setting up shop like to just continue, because like we talked earlier, they're just going to keep going until they're dead or everybody else is dead. the thought used to be, well, if they're like up on the second floor of the church or in an office and they're, now they've killed 10 people and it's way too dangerous. So we just need to kind of wait it out like Columbine style. What we found out is that's the worst thing to do. You have to disrupt before they can really set up and get their defenses set in and do whatever they're planning to do. You've got to get in and disrupt that. And is it dangerous? Yeah, but the outcome is going to be worse if people wait around. The attack, the counterattack from the good guys has got to happen ASAP as possible, as I say.
And I'll use an example of a very popular story, Flight 93 and 9/11.
Yeah.
Those guys fought to take over the plane. Honestly, if they would have seen the plane being taken over and they hadn't waited and they'd have moved right then on them terrorists, that plane probably wouldn't have went down. But they let them get themselves barricaded in the cockpit, and then they had to fight through all of that. Now, should they have went? Yeah, absolutely, because they saved a lot of other lives. They perished. And that's the mindset you have to have is like, I may die, but I may also save some lives.
For the greater good.
Yes. And people don't want to hear that. The great hot fuzz.
Well, because, all right, so we had a nuclear facility in my city. And in that nuclear facility, there was a building that nobody, basically, we will all die before somebody takes that building. And we call it for the greater good. And we all knew it was in the building, and it would be bad. You know where I was at anyways. You know what building I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember we found there was a suspicious baggage out front of that building, secure nuclear facility, and there's this bag. And I simply asked the guy, they're waiting for a bomb squad. And I asked him, I go, bro, that's in a bad spot. That bag, we need to deal with it correctly. And he's like, yes. And I just looked down and it was their security guy. I'm like, for the greater good, right? Yes.
Oh, no, don't tell me you did what you did.
Well, the thing is what it comes down to is, it's this secure place. If something bad were to happen, bad things are going to happen. And so it's like, all right, let's figure out what we're going to do because EOD is a long way out. We have to figure out what we're going to do because and now it's like, let's start game plan. We can't go up and grab it because worry about it detonating. Let's start figuring this out. And they actually figured out a way. They figured out a way to look inside the bag without disrupting anything. And we found it doesn't look like there's anything in there. Awesome. Then go pick it up and let's move it and let's go. Right. But there was this whole collective, what do we do? What do we do? If that goes up, a lot of people are going to die. We need to figure this out, right now.
I want to posit that same situation in a church.
Yeah.
Right. You got a church. You got this situation. Don't pick the bloody thing up.
No, move everybody out. Evacuate.
Move everybody out. Absolutely. If you are in a situation where you
and tape it, maybe throw it at it.
You're gonna get an aneurysm. Stop
Tie a
it.
string to it and then drag it.
Yeah, slowly.
Literally, I'm getting ready to say, literally walk up to it, tie a length of paracord or rope or something like that to it, back up a full 100 feet. And if it has to be moved, move it at the end of a rope. Give yourself 100 feet. You give yourself 100 feet. 100 feet is a long ways when it comes to fragmentation. Okay, and blast overpressure. You're giving yourself 100 feet of life. Please take it. Please God, don't be the guy. Don't be the deputy who calls me. I get there, and I'm like, okay, where's the bomb? Trunk of my car. I didn't want it to hurt anybody. Yeah, that's super helpful.
No, I actually brought it to them. I drove over, I put it in the trunk, and they drove it down. And they said, I'm trying to save you a trip, but here it is, and hand them the backpack. It had can of fuse in it. Come on.
Thanks, Blue Canary.
I was a combat engineer, brother. I know what I'm doing. It's EOD light.
Yeah. You should lay on it, self-propelled sandbag.
Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to do that. What's up next? What's up next, man?
We need to start wrapping up.
It's up to you. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah. So, we're gonna wrap up a little bit and do some funny stuff for you guys. You guys won't be able to see this stuff, so I guess
just move right over there.
Yeah. Well, let me move over here real quick. I'm gonna get into frame.
Oh,
Scooch on
You
over.
guys have to see what's on the screen.
Yeah.
Truly appreciate
Get a little comfortable here.
Oh, is that what we look like?
Yeah, that's what you look like.
There's an
so.
explosion in the background. That's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me
Those are
actually
actually
exit
buzzing
out of
with
these.
exploding up in the background.
Believe it or not, that's the best way to have them.
I went to Grok and said, draw a picture of the video thumbnail with Muslims exploding a bomb at a church. And it ripped off like 20 of them for me. I kept saying, do it again. Do
Oh,
it again.
seriously?
Dead serious. Couldn't believe it.
Grok does that?
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
True story.
All right, here we go.
That's about right.
The
Yeah.
union address. Lie,
Drop
lie,
in a
lie, lie,
quarter
lie.
and watch those lies. come out.
Yep. Thank goodness he's not our
Oh,
president
that's so
anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Twist the handle.
let's take a minute because I can't prep them up, but so
Cards. Oh my God. Look
Click
at
on the
that.
next one. It'll say share this tab instead.
Okay.
That'll save
All
you
right.
time. But look
Cool.
at the number of pardons.
Ronald Reagan 406, George H.W. 77, Bill Clinton 459, George W. Bush 200, Barack Obama 1900, 27, Donald Trump 237, and the winner of the gold medal, including all of the corrupt dirtbags in his administration
Wow.
and all of these pieces of crap in the bureaucracy, 8,064.
That's
The
insane.
8,064 does not include his family at the last minute and the other couple.
So it's
people
probably
tacked
close
on
to,
at the end.
8,100 or more.
Wow.
I grabbed that the day before Trump was sworn
You know what
in.
I think is
Yeah.
hilarious about that? Finland didn't get one of those.
And next,
Oh, nice.
great. Now I don't have a dick or a job.
Oh.
All right. Pardon stops federal crimes, but not state crimes. Every conservative state should prosecute Fauci at the state level for crimes against the citizens, and repost this if you agree. I think everybody should repost this, and I hope
Yeah.
the leader of the pack is Ron DeSantis from your state of Florida,
Yep.
because he's the most likely to do this.
Yeah.
He did. He went after him on COVID already. So please, your lips to God's ears.
Hey, you're retarded again.
Trump signs executive
Shut up,
order
Homo.
making it okay to call people gay and retarded again.
No.
To be fair, military and police never stopped.
No.
So
Oh.
daddy's home.
Yeah.
You lost, you dirty effing communists.
There we go.
100%.
Yeah. Are those wait?
These
Are
are
those
like
real
map
signs?
symbols.
Are those real
I,
signs?
I think these are like,
They're a real delusion.
River
Yeah.
City needs this. Can you guys email this to me so I can put it on River City?
yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Look you get when your husband is about to destroy the people that raided your underwear drawer.
That FBI guy right there, he's the one that had my panties on his head.
Oh.
Probably stiffed him a few times. Someone, that won't work. After it works.
And what?
That's the Mike Sterling one.
That's right.
Everyone, I don't like Hitler.
Yeah.
Or everyone I don't like is Hitler. Sorry, I can't read for some reason.
Reading
I was
is
in the Air Force,
fundamental.
yeah.
Yeah, you should
A
know.
Child's
how to read.
Guide to Online Political Discussion. That's about true. You know, they were trying to do that with Elon with the waving.
Oh, it's
Trying to
coming up.
say, yeah.
It's coming up. There's a special chart to determine.
I'm
how,
back. Did you miss me? I, for one, did.
I did.
Yeah. Hands.
Yep.
Mm.
See what I
Oh.
said? We end us survivors just by doing this shit every night. Man. We put a smile
dude.
on people's faces.
That's funny.
Uh,
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
That's a
so
great
fog has been
reference.
removed from my eyes.
Yep.
Where's Grima now?
Your hands will feel stronger if they know the feeling of your sword.
That's right. See, and that's completely wrong. You don't use a catapult for that. You use a trebuchet.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or the deported.
Oh. Holding former government officials accountable for election interference and improper disclosure of sensitive government information.
That was just passed. That's an executive order. that Trump just did.
Wonderful.
Now, why did you?
Rich is over here wondering what we're laughing at.
Yeah.
By the
Poor
way,
Cindy, same thing.
Watching
Yeah.
it live on my phone.
Oh yeah.
hello swamp, or prepare for the draining.
That's his picture in every government building now, by the way.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Official
love
photo.
it.
Yeah.
Here we go. By the way, I want to point out the most gangster baller thing was signing executive orders in that freaking stadium the other night. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
so
While taking
incredible.
questions.
Yeah. And
Yes.
toss his hands out
Freaking-
into the audience.
Like that's so awesome.
Yeah.
He said my pronouns. I have to live in reality now. By the way, can we ban blue hair? That would be a great executive
Well,
order.
there was a joke executive order that he was banning the blue hair dye because it makes you stupid. And we saw something at the airport last night that I sent you a picture of that was pink hair.
Yes,
So I
yes.
think all hair
And I think it
dyes
was a
that are-
dude acting like a woman.
It was absolutely a dude.
Yeah.
I'm just a dude playing a dude, not looking like a dude.
That was a dude.
How many, by a show of hands, would be totally fine with this?
100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Long overdue. The
Terrible.
fact that she sat on that in that rotunda.
Oh,
for
Now,
when
this
she
is funny.
inaugurated.
This is funny for us.
Yeah.
It snowed in the Panhandle and our flight was delayed, but that's what we have in Florida.
All right, you
So
guys.
what level of freakouts going on in Florida right now?
on the Panhandle, so like Armageddon.
All right. So straight up, Florida has had more snow than where I'm at in Idaho.
That's insane.
I have not shoveled the driveway yet,
Wow.
and I mean like a foot in NOLA.
Yeah,
I
New
mean,
Orleans,
yeah.
Florida.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah, by next week, only small mammals burrowed deep underground will survive.
Trump is the first president in 100 years to not have a dog. He's made the Democrat Party his business. Oh, it's
yeah.
great.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh, just
was
wait.
even
Wait,
better than
America.
big screen.
Here it comes.
Oh.
You want to see Nancy Pelosi without makeup? Here we go.
Oh, that is so horrible to
It
look
seems
at.
so familiar from somewhere. I just
Yeah.
Wait,
can't put
after
my
a
finger
church episode.
Yeah, right.
She looks better.
If the shot was safe and effective, why does Fauci need a pardon? That is the question of the day.
Yep.
That's a great.
I support
Yeah.
American oil on American soil, 100%. Drill, baby, drill. I have a dream that I can steal your meme.
that had some context with Obama. I can't remember right now. That's just a badass.
And here we go. Yes. Yes. Give a dog a hat. Now he thinks he's the shit.
All right, so the cops have that same picture, and it's like when the canine unit gets transferred to narcotics. That's what it
I was
is.
gonna say that dog
just need a little
100% has
bit.
Tech
Just-
9.
Yeah.
You made the training day.
Yeah, right. He's got a Caltech. I'm telling you.
Have you seen Squid Game? It's the crazy show where people in debt signing up to kill each other to entertain the rich. Anyway, let's get you enlisted.
Wow, that's crazy. Huh?
Oh, the
Wow.
dark humor of the military.
Oh,
Straight
yeah.
up, man. Nothing
Nothing.
can stop what's coming. Nothing. Like we're already seeing the most prolific and fast rollout of a 180-degree turn.
Oh.
F it, arrest Fauci anyway. You know, I will say this. They need to do the investigation no matter what.
Oh yeah.
This has to be
Yeah.
exposed to the American people, everything. Single-handedly putting an end to the dumb blonde jokes.
Well, we did.
So a
determine
dumb
that the-
so a dumb AOC walks into a bar.
I hate looking at that picture.
This is good.
Mexican word of the day, bishop. Can someone please shut the bishop? Oh, here we go. Charlie Kirk, pharmaceutical companies should not be allowed to advertise prescription drug, can't talk, on TV. Make it illegal for the make it illegal like the rest of the world.
Wonderful to not have to watch 47 prescription drug commercials an hour.
Yeah. Can you pick up a card on your way home? My coworker's husband just got deported.
The fuck is wrong with you?
Oh man.
By the way, who's the comedian It was I can't think of his name. Really famous comedian. He put a video out that was like how I talked to my friend who just got deported. He's like, "Oh, that stinks, man. Bye." FEMA has been directed back to North Carolina with $2 billion of emergency funds. We transferred it from the programs that fund welfare for illegals. They won't be needing it. Thank you, President Trump.
That's not a joke.
That's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Liberal. See Donald Trump.
Right in front of my freedom chicken.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
we
saw
already
that.
just saw that one.
Okay, you redid it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
2025. F off. Nobody cares. Bye bye, Rainbow Jihad.
Are they Nazis?
That looks like a Nazi.
Hey, that's I mean, if.
It's a gay Nazi.
Yeah.
They're still a Nazi.
Or as AOC says, "Hail Hitler."
Right.
Stop talking about Trump. I can't.
True story there.
Oh, when the science needs a pardon, that's when you know it was
bull.
bullshit.
Yeah.
100%.
That's
Rubio State Department bans Pride BLM flags at embassies and outposts.
Was
Great
that a thing
news.
for real?
Yes. That's for
Mhm.
real.
The BLM flag too.
Yep.
They're going scorched earth on this stuff, dude. Like straight up scorched earth.
100%.
And need to.
So you're saying that tobacco products on race cars will make me want to smoke, but gay and drag queen storybooks won't influence my life choices. That's a fair point.
Fair point. Yeah.
True story.
Oh,
I think
and that
that's
is
it.
it. All right, so it's we ran long today, but for a good reason. Great topic. I'd like to thank all of our guys on our panel. You guys are awesome, and if you guys need comment or need training, and I'm on my train of thought. He owed me that, by the way, for last night.
Yep.
Um,
And then some. Oh, that came out weird.
yeah, it did come out weird. Backstory here: I kind of locked him out of being able to get up to the suite last night. So, but anyways, check out Keith at ChristianWarriorTraining.com on YouTube. He's got a ton of great content and great resource for anybody that's looking into self-defense, looking into protect their church or themselves. Check us out, RighteousSavages.com. We are also on YouTube. We're doing a lot of product reviews. We're doing a lot of content for you guys in the vein of firearms, our faith, what bringing masculinity back to America looks like. We definitely want to see you guys tune in and check out Survival Dispatch, all of our content. We appreciate everything you guys do. We'll be back tomorrow night at the same time.
Right here
And
from the Champagne
right
Room
here
at SHOT
from-
Show.
Yes.
Same
Yes.
time, same place,
Yes,
same bat channel.
yes, yes. So until then, like, share, subscribe, and God bless America.
And watch this badass video. It's a repeat, but it's a really good one. When you
Watch till the end. As
Yeah.
they say.
you're gonna like this one. This is the most requested.
In the darkness once again, unearthly violence with no end. Power visions quietly storming, funds of fueling downstream draining. Our visions was put on hold. Now they've been told. In the sound of violence, it's not a dream. Their lives are torn, blood flowing over dirt and stone. In the sights of a deadly drone, greenlit to fire innocence unknown. and a mother and father must bury another son. The world's undone. The endless sound of violence. Then in a shining light we saw 100 million people strong. People screaming, just listen to me. Politicians, it's your reckoning. People casting choice. Their voices will be heard. Unchain the word. The endless sound of violence. Bringing the hope that we all know. Let the fear train, let it go. Hearing the words, he will fight for you. Holding hands out, he will pull you through. Heed the words, this warning will ring in hell. The sending the sound of violence. Standing tall, our fists are raised. The Lord God, he has saved. And your faith restored.